1. The Savior will return to the earth in power and great glory to reign personally during a millennium of righteousness and peace. 2. At the time of his coming, there will be a destruction of the wicked and a resurrection of the righteous. 3. No one knows the time of his coming. While we are powerless to alter the fact of the second coming and unable to know its exact time,
in the coming day, Jesus Christ will return to the earth as the millennial Messiah, or the second coming. Do you see what is happening right before our eyes? Second coming of the Lord. Jesus Christ will govern from Old Jerusalem and the New Jerusalem, built upon the American continent.
To my Mormon friends, my Latter-day Saint friends, think of him as Captain Moroni.
I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
From the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
Well, thank you very much for being here, and this is very exciting for me. I know so many people that are in your church and the Latter-day Saints. The job you've done is beyond anything you can think of. In 180 countries, taking care of people the way you take care of people, and the respect that you have all over the world.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. Yesterday, YouTube confirmed that they're intentionally deleting my comments on my own channel. So not only have they been directly cyber terrorizing me, they've also been secretly cyber terrorizing me behind my back. And so very likely there are others of you who I've commented to with your replied comment that never know I commented to you. Idaho Chick, I found out, is not getting at least some of my comments, as I caught YouTube when I went to go back to comment. I was not able to view my own comment to her. This was a long time ago, a couple of weeks. So, this is the kind of abuse that is representative of my whole life, not just from YouTube. Ever since I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. And shown that Joseph Smith is a translator. Because the church, being born and raised in the Covenant Mormon, has told me that Joseph Smith is my founder, that the Book of Mormon is our keystone. That's another thing Alyssa didn't bring up. She didn't say keystone. She focused more on most correct book. I wanted to know about Joseph Smith. I had a natural desire to want to learn all about him, to read his words. And I found out that he had words that were not published in our Doctrine and Covenants. And people were telling me that the reason why is because Brigham Young didn't approve them. That never sat right with me. For a church that's so obsessed with authority that members obey authority, for them to then tell me that our founder did not have scriptures published because he wasn't approved, that never sat right with me. And we're talking as a kid. We're not talking as a full-grown adult. No, as a kid. Never sat right with me. As the church keeps pushing the prophet, president of the church, as authoritative, with occasional scandals. Occasional scandals. Occasional scandals. And so, because of my upbringing, I became a seer, a revelator, a prophet, a translator. Because of my desire to learn about Joseph Smith, to know his word, to know how he translated, I became. And then I get attacked. I become a priest, 1986. Metallica's Master of Puppets comes out. Then April conference, Benson now tells me that I'm of the youth of the noble birthright, that I'm evil, and that pregnancy is a pernicious evil. Which is hilarious when you think about it. Benson is quoting The Miracle of Forgiveness of Spencer W. Kimball, who is quoting Elder Packer from a conference talk. All three of them call pregnancy a pernicious evil. Hilarious. But that's the way they treat women in the church too. They never bothered to listen to what they're saying. They just come right out and say it. Nobody bothered to edit it and say, you're calling pregnancy a pernicious evil. Shouldn't we sort of help the audience understand that pregnancy as a result of these other sins is the pernicious evil? And emphasize making sure they pay the prostitution price for their wife, go through the temple, sex trafficking them at BYU. Nope. You got to put that in the context of the other scriptures. So I became that. And everybody wants me dead. Nobody wants to believe me when I am the authority on the ancient anthropology of the Middle East. When I am the authority on Mormonism. And it's sad because I'm deeply concerned with the next couple of days, especially the 5th, Election Day. I watched World Trade Center after White House Down yesterday, and then caught on to the pattern of what I was watching, selecting to watch. It began with Star Wars. I'd been watching Star Wars, and then I had obtained some other movies that you saw me convert. And I watched What Planet Are You From? And if you don't know about that movie, and you didn't see the videos where I explain it, it's about a woman who is impregnated by a space alien for the purpose of overthrowing the government. And then I watched White House Down, Little Emily, and then World Trade Center, and then last night for my bedtime movie, Brewster's Millions. Anybody see the theme? Star Wars. Empire rises to power. What planet are you from? Impregnating women to coup the government. White House Down. An insurrection. A coup of the government with destruction. Blowing up the Capitol. Burning down the White House. Blowing up the White House. World Trade Center. The real story of the survivors of the terrorist attack on American soil. And Brewster's Millions. None of the above. Not just baseball and having the funding for Zion and having to spend it all on the people. They did not make that connection. It was in there, but that was not their intention. Their intention for the spending of the money was so that we see that he hates money. He hates all of it. And he doesn't want money anymore, and thus can inherit the larger amount of money. And that really didn't convince me. They didn't really develop the script to convince me that he hates money. Because when he succeeds and gets the 300 million, he's back to loving money again. So I'm not convinced, but you see that one of the ways he got rid of the money was to allow other people to do and be what they've wanted to be. The fiance of the secretary, clerk, money keeper, whatever she's called. You know, he was working at the firm that was trying to sabotage him, but his desire in life was to be an interior designer. But, you know, he never really had the opportunity to be that. Brewster finally gave him that opportunity. Freely gave him money to be an interior designer. And was able to get that other woman also to do that job. And so even though he had to cancel it at the end of the 30 days, that concept, that precept, stuck in me. As the Book of Mormon has already been ingrained into my brain with associative memory. And so that's the economy of Zion. Those who go to Zion get what they need and what they want to be who they want to be without any financial restrictions. Just like Brewster's Millions that they didn't really focus on. And so you can know a person, their character, their inner thoughts and feelings, by the type of movies that they consider their favorite. And it's probably a little bit hard to figure out for me. Other people are more blatantly obvious. But among my top favorite movies, let's see if you can figure out a pattern. Stargate, Brewster's Millions, 1984, National Treasure, Fahrenheit 451, the original Time Machine. Though I like the reboot, but the original one was what's on the list. Terminator, Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, Battlestar Galactica, White House Down. Anybody figure them out? Some of them might be easier than others. But it all has to do with Zion. latter days are over with. The scriptures have prophesied, they have happened. The prophets who prophesied have also revealed the days and hours of when those prophesied events would happen. You cannot prophesy without giving the day and the hour of the prophecies, because otherwise you'll get Mormons making stuff up as to when Jesus is coming, and then lose their confidence the more time goes by. Right, Nelson? All we have left is the fall of the great and abominable church and the transfer of authority to the man like Moses, the Jewish Christ, who would take those who choose to go to Zion to build it, while the rest of the world descends into civil war, world war, chaos, where dogs and cats are living together, mass hysteria. Ghostbusters needs to be added to the list. Probably should put that in my Ghostbusters. File it away in my filed away YouTube video reference list. If this final prophecies do not happen, there will be no Zion. This is how crucial and vital this month is, next few days. If you've been watching my channel, you'd know that I'm inspired to watch certain movies, and they've helped inspire the video content, as I'm able to utilize an episode or a movie to help explain Jewish doctrine and Jewish interpretation of Scripture for you. But this last batch that I've been inspired to watch, with World Trade Center finally clicking, oh, I see, has me worried about the fifth. If the fall of the church and the descent into civil war, and thus trigger World War III around the world, happens on election morning, election day, I am concerned there will not be a Zion. Mormons don't have any clue. They're still in shock after 1 month, finally realizing that Nelson had said that Jesus is coming at conference a month ago, and Mormons finally find out. And I did those videos. Mormons don't watch conference. They go on vacation. So they miss certain crucial videos. And every single conference, my Nelson video is the bombshell video. And yet, for this conference, the Nelson video, which everybody is freaking out with a month later because they finally found out about it, not from me, that video tanked. The abuse of YouTube, dear God. Mormons don't know they're supposed to be Jewish. And so I'm attacked on my channel because Mormons believe they're true as Christian. demonstrating an illiteracy, if not a knowing hatred. And so Mormons, therefore, by not watching my channel, have no clue where they're supposed to go. And there was a woman who knew where to go, as she made a comment about X marks the spot. She'd been listening, and I've never heard from her since. I don't know what happened to her. You know, granted, people who find my channel and are interested in the first video that they watch and continue to watch more, eventually they find out a video where their indoctrination by the church has offended them, and they run away and hide, never to follow me again. Or they go to the extreme and make a hate comment and have to be banned to not watch my videos anymore, rather than just going away because you don't believe me anymore. And it's sad that people's indoctrination is the cause for them not to endure to the end, to not believe. But the one thing that they are wrong about is the one thing that prevents them from believing. But Mormons have no clue where to go if it happens and the fall happens, and the Mormons don't know what to do, don't know where to go. Their guiding compass is gone. They were dependent on the church to compel them as to what to believe, and now the church is gone, and they're in a faith crisis, and they don't know who to follow, because they have not learned how to learn how to learn. They have not learned how to be independent agents. Church won't teach them to be that. They do for economy. And the church tells Mormons that they're wicked if they're not rich and prosperous. So they have such a scenario. Mormons won't believe those who do not conform to their interpretation of Mormonism. And so Mormons will end up going their own way. Similar to when Joseph Smith is assassinated, Mormons flocked to those leaders who they approved of, even though none of them were authorized to continue the church. It's just that destruction of Joseph Smith's church from his assassination caused this confusion among Mormons. And this is what I see happening again. Brigham Young was not authorized. All he had was the keys of Peter, James, and John to plant the word into the minds of the people, so that they can grow the word, have children in the church about the coming of the latter days, to be prepared. Instead, Brigham Young exalted himself and committed a whole bunch of abominations that still to this day nobody catches on. I did the video with Alyssa and the other Mormon, both talking about the Book of Mormon, both of them wrong. Jewish, not Christian. And so the comment that YouTube flagged me for was my attempt at a Nevermo who has been misinformed and thought he would send hate comments on my channel about his misinformation about Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon. YouTube did not flag him. YouTube flagged me, trying to get him to be corrected in his information. And so instead of commenting, I had to ban the guy because YouTube attacked me for their hatred of me. So that person is gone because of YouTube, rather than an attempt to try to correct his information and see if I could guide him to the truth. YouTube would not allow it. Oh, right. 2021. I'm also seeing another pattern. The church in their in their attacks, the overall attacks, have patterns of practices. The church isn't able to be original. They use the same tactics to destroy me, to murder me, to hurt me. And so I'm seeing a potential for this. After I had found that the church is connected to the secret combination of the Council for National Policy, and we had that conference in 2021 of October. Afterward, I had found the way to perfection. I had found that quote from the Mormon myth about Adam-on-Diamond that I had been hearing about since I was a kid, that there's going to be a great priesthood meeting in Adam-on-Diamond, and only those who are chosen will go to it, and this is where Jesus will be given the keys of authority for government, and then go over to Jerusalem, divide the Mount of Olives in half, and burn the Islamists, as we now know, burn the world, because the whole world was supposed to be gathered against Israel, and the surviving Jews would run through the valley of the Mount of Olives, see Jesus on the other side, non-Trinitarian, with a body of flesh and bone as tangible as man's, and they will see the wounds in his hands and in his feet from their ancestors who had murdered him in the Roman period of time. And then they'll weep for having persecuted Jesus when they didn't. You know, we have the doctrine of man will be punished for his own sins and not for their parents' transgressions, Adam's. And yet, the Jews are going to be punished for their parents' transgressions, which did not happen, if you know about the first creed of Christianity. And then he's going to come to the Independence, Missouri, where Zion would be built, and his throne, for the April conference 2024. But Nelson failed. Yeah. See, now that things have happened, you now see what the church has been leading us to incorrectly believe. You see their consequences. You see that they are tares and not wheat. And yet, because YouTube has shut me down, Mormons are not able to learn this truth. They still think they're wheat. They're still excited about the coming of Jesus in a coming day. Clueless of what it means that Jesus is going to be a mass terrorist murderer and an insurrectionist cooing the governments of the whole world, not just the United States of America. And it is our elections where the transfer of authority takes place. And here the church is talking about Jesus cooing our government. And Oaks got leaked by a little sister missionary before the 2020 election and said that 2020 was going to be a test run for the second coming of Jesus, who's going to coup the government. And so here we are in 2024. A guy who has a crush on her did a video on it, and YouTube, by mocking me, recommended his video. I know what it means. Nobody was supposed to know about his talk to the missionaries in Las Vegas, Nevada on the 14th of November, or 14th of March, 2020. And so this pattern that I saw coming is based on what the church did to me after I released The Way to Perfection of this government coup. See, I believed that Mormons missed it, and that somehow they failed to cause the election to be overthrown, and knew that they still wanted it done so that they were going to plan and prep for 2024. And so when I found out about this 2020 election only being a test run, now I understand why it failed in 2020. If it succeeded, great. But it was merely a test run to see what they can do. And they were willing to sacrifice Mitt Romney, not Senator Lee. Senator Lee is in on it. He knows because of his third great-grandfather, who was involved in the coup of Joseph Smith. Romney is an adopted-in Mormon. He was not an original Danite like Lee is. And so, that's why the Way to Perfection picture that I have has that little blue missionary card, how to find happiness. Because that was the church that left it at the bus stop for me. And I did the videos back then, and I did the video, did the picture for you, and thus the snapshot, and thus making it part of the picture with The Way to Perfection, because they are intertwined. I leaked what was not supposed to be leaked. It says so right in The Way to Perfection. The world cannot know of it, the saints cannot know of it. The world must not know of it, the saints must not know of it. It's got to be a secret combination. Nobody is supposed to know, Travis. You gotta have your covenant path promise not to leak the information. This is why they try to murder me. It's because I violated my temple covenants. And I'm leaking the government coup of this church to the world, to my government. And it doesn't matter, my government's not doing anything to stop the church. So I've been trying to figure out why. Is it because they don't believe me? Or is it because that the church has their agents in position to protect the church with the law of sacrifice covenant? Protect the church from prosecution, and the law of consecration to restore the kingdom with the coup of a government. And so that December, the church ordered that I no longer receive money. And thus unable to purchase food. There was the scandal of the rent, because the apartment building was rent controlled for income. And since my final check, final money paid for the coming month's rent, because of it being the last, I had informed the new property manager, specifically put in to boot me out to Gail Miller's concentration camp of hell of human trafficking that the church had already been setting up for me since 2021. You know, I saw the bigger picture. I saw what the church was up to. And I had been able to remind him that it's not the full month's payment, but the minimum Utah required payment of $15 per month. So I was set for a year and a half. And he got fired. He failed. And so the next one then was sent in. They got rid of me. And it was for a false claim. They had threatened another tenant to lie about me, and they had no interest in knowing because they set it all up. And so 9 months I was in Gail Miller's concentration camp of hell. After the 6 months of being able to survive there before they finally forced me out. No food. I had to live on what storage food I had had. This is the abuse of the church and how evil they are. And so here we are with the election that the church has been planning for 200 years. And again, if they succeed, they will prevent me from getting further money, and thus unable to buy food, to make me homeless again. This time, no homeless shelter to go to. They don't want me. They had to fire 2 people, 2 girls, who got me into this place. They weren't supposed to get me into this place. I got into this place. They got fired. And then they sicked my brother on me. This is the pattern of practice of the church. They threaten people to commit crimes against other people that they're targeting. And if you do what they say and you succeed, you get financially rewarded. If you fail, you get ruined. If you refuse to do it, you get ruined. But they always ask you to commit crimes for this church, right? Federal government judges and FBI and other government leaders, business leaders, Mormons. This is secret combination criminal behavior. And there have been numerous Mormons enacted to commit crimes against me ever since I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew in 1997 of February. And so I saw that the church was purposely wanting me in the shelter to murder me. And if I couldn't be murdered immediately from the purposeful drug use that escalated while I was there, or from the employees who were ordered to attack me, as on the final day when I was able to get into this apartment, the shelter shut off my internet access. They had their IT guy specifically target me, cyber terrorizing me, and the South Jordan cops said, well, we don't have an IT cyber investigator, so there's nothing we can do for you. He then would get fired because of the scandal he was involved in, replaced by a woman who is towing the line. Still not doing her job, but towing the line. This whole valley is corrupt. Mormons are in bondage and are forced to commit crimes for this church so that their will be done, their kingdom come. And here we go. I'm very concerned, guys. It was very emotional for me yesterday with the videos I watched. You do not want the consequences, but they are coming. And Oaks warned you, we cannot stop it. We will not stop it. And he's the one who said they're the masterminds behind it. Put that in context. Let me write that down. Oaks vid can't stop. Okay, so Joseph Smith warned you about this, along with the Bible and along with the Book of Mormon. Trying to help you out so that you can figure it out. But the video I did yesterday about the religion of the Jews is essential for all Mormons to learn. The church indoctrinates you into Christian Mormonism. That you have to revise the interpretation of all scriptures, not just the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith as Christian Mormon, but the Bible too. Whereas Christians just use their Christianity for only the Bible, and therefore they reject the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith, as they reject the Jews, who were the ones who gave them their scriptures, which they are rejecting. And so part of the learning of the Jews is understanding the holy days that come from the scriptures, and specifically how they apply to the prophecies and the revelation day and hours for Mormons in the latter days. Because Joseph Smith makes it very clear, it's all about you, Mormons. All the prophecies are about you. You are the house of Israel. They are not literal history stories. They are prophecies. And Joseph Smith said those prophecies are about you, Mormons. So it's not Moses, it's your Mormon Christ, born among you, who would be a prophet, a seer, a revelator, and a translator of Paleo-Hebrew and Egyptian, having the keys of the president of the church, when the false prophet is on the throne, holding you in bondage, forcing you to commit crimes. And it's sad that Mormons, because of their indoctrination, when they hear me talk about that boldly and directly, instead of humbling themselves and choosing to follow my videos, to listen, to learn, to try to save themselves in Zion, instead run away and hide, put a thumbs down, send a hate comment, a death threat, false testimonial about how true the Christian Jesus is, and that he's going to murder me for my apostasy. So you never want to learn about the Jewish religion of Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon, and thus the Bible. So the calendar and the holy days are essential to utilize in your study of the scriptures. So October this year, I've been teaching you all about the Jews this year, about the religion, rituals of the calendar, holy days. The whole time, it's all about learning of the Jewish religion. And because it's the Jewish religion, it's obviously exposing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as false. And so it's been necessary, because the scriptures tell you there's a great and abominable church holding Mormons hostage. There's only one church that Mormons are in. Thus, by default, regardless of whether you know the learning of the Jews or not, all Mormons should know this church is the great and abominable church. Catholics aren't holding you in bondage, Bruce. Bruce on my conky. It's the Catholic Church. It's a great and abominable church. Fine, I'll edit it out. No. And still, he's still wrong. Because the first vision tells you it's all Christianity. And yet Bruce Armour Conkey said the Catholic Church. Ignoring the other Christian branch-offs. But they have to, because this church claims to be Christian. And so they're trying to convert Christians. And they think that the more gullible ones who will join are those who are not Catholic. Because Catholics say they were born Catholic, they will die Catholic. As I heard too many times on my mission in New York, which Peter Paulino died on 9/11. He was in the Bronx branch. And to learn that the church was behind it, there is no restitution that this church can make. lost all hope of any level of salvation in an afterlife. But Joseph Smith was talking about Zion people. Mormons turned it literal, but nonetheless. And so, I've gone over with you the October stuff, and then, as of the other day, the Israel version of Tabernacles, which is why the Jews don't have it on their calendar, because they were northern Israel, they were not the Judah Jews. And so you start off with the New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and then the Fast of Gedalia. If you remember, I have videos going over all this for you, doing countdowns. And then the 9th of Av. We need to put 9th Av in here, don't we? It's actually 9th Av is first, so it's not part of this. But again, I demonstrated that I am a prophet and revelator, as I did the countdown videos for 9th Av. And then the second half was on 9/11. 9th Av is 9/11 for the Jews. It's when their temple got destroyed, first by Babylon, then by Rome. Babylon was what produced Islam. Rome is what produced Christians. The great and abominable church, because they destroyed the Jews in the Jerusalem temple. So the prophecies are about a stone temple of the great and abominable church. Salt Lake City, it's the only stone temple we have. And there it is, the headquarters temple. And 2 more days, when the church plans their coup, which is already in operation. That's why I recognized from the videos I was watching my concern for this. And so, after the Fast of Gedalia, which was the assassination of the governor, which I did the videos from the Book of Mormon about this, talking about it for you. Then we have the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. And because you've been indoctrinated with Christianity, you don't understand that the Day of Atonement is about the fulfillment of the prophecies of the Jewish Christ. That the people, the Jews, are supposed to purify their hearts for his coming, so that when he comes, they follow him to Zion. But it's about you, Mormons. And so you were judged by yourself. You cut yourself off from Zion because of your unbelief. Except for the Nevermo yesterday that YouTube forced me to cut off. This is the sad reality. I don't know the number. There's no way I can count how many Mormons cut themselves off because they chose to believe in Christian falsehoods and deny Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon. Mormons deny. See, you're not proving that I'm wrong by sending me a hate comment, a thumbs down, death threats, false testimonials. I have knowledge, guys. I've done the research. This is likely why many Mormons up and leave and don't bother coming back, is because they are unwilling to accept the truth. They know they cannot beat me in a debate because it's Jewish. Completely different mindset, completely different paradigm. And nobody knows about Mormonism, let alone that it's supposed to be Jewish, that they know nothing about. We are not taught it. They don't even footnote it for you in verse 2. They only focus on Egyptian with the footnote link for the brass plates. They don't want you to know the learning of the Jews. So you'll see a surface thing in the Bible dictionary. You'll see the certain major holidays, but they don't teach you the learning of the Jews. They only tell you through certain teachers that when Joseph Smith was in the Kirtland Temple and sees the literal separate personages in his dream vision, blatantly obvious, and yet this church covers it up with Christianity. You were told, at least, that Elijah came on the third day of Passover. They have to at least cover that because Malachi suddenly come to his temple. So they claim it was fulfilled with Joseph Smith in the Kirtland Temple on the 3rd of April, 1836. You're not getting it. He's prophesying for you, Mormons. He's giving you revelation, day and hour. It's learning of the Jews. And so, yeah, you have what I've been going over with you, the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot, the tents, as it's translated. It's when the house of Israel had left in an exodus. And because they had not yet built Zion, they stayed in tents. And the temple was a tent. And so thus Zion will be tents, tent cities, like the homeless people that they're trying to neglect here in the state of Utah, to not get them into homes, not hooking them up with human health and human services that got combined together just recently. When the homeless are in great need of government benefits, government assistance, and the government wants nothing to do with them. Pass them off to a corporation that human traffics them and then punishes them for their poverty, trying to kick them out like the Zoramites did to the unemployed construction workers of the Jewish synagogue that was turned Christian with the great spirit of the Rameumptom. Christian replaced the Jews. It's all right there for you. And so after that came and went, and the other day, on the 1st of November, because of the 31st, saw the calendar, and oh, a new moon. That means the start of another month. And I was inspired to learn about the new month, review it again, but I shut off my computer for the night, gotta go to bed, so I was gonna get to it in the morning, didn't write it down, so I got caught up on other stuff, and then finally got to it, and then went, oh crap, how did I miss this? It's because it's Israel, not Jews. So the Jews don't have it. And so I went over in the video for you yesterday. Right? Or was it the first? Anyway, I did the video for you about the Israel Feast of Tabernacles, about the Danites of the house of Israel on Mount Ephraim. Man, I told you, it's all about you, Mormons. It's all about you. And so, if we go back to 1823, we start with Rosh Hashanah on the 6th. It was the 6th of September was the new year for the Jews. And then the fast of Gedalia was on the 8th. The 15th was the Day of Atonement. And then the 21st evening, thus the 22nd, was Joseph Smith's vision of the second vision, talking about the end of the world for Mormons, that they need to listen to their Jewish Christ to be saved. And here it's the third day of Tabernacles. That's Judah for Jerusalem, not Israel. That began on the 20th of October to the 27th. That was the Israel ingathering Feast of Tabernacles harvest. That's the keys of Moses. The gathering of the fruit. Peter, James, and John are the seeders of the seed, and for the latter days of the fruit, which Joseph Smith knew that Mormons would be scattered by Brigham Young, not be gathered, because they don't have the keys. Thus, the Exodus with the gathering of Mormons who want to come to Zion from all over the world. But, Joseph Smith uses the popular Feast of Harvest, even though he tells Mormons they are the house of Israel. They are the new Israelites. But it all plays a part with the symbolism. And so then Joseph Smith gets the Book of Mormon in 1827. That's the picture we're going to use. Pick plus pick. Okay. And so, the 22nd of September is now the new year. Getting the Book of Mormon to plant the seeds for the fruit of the latter days is now on the new year in 1827. No, he didn't get the book. Joseph Smith had nothing to do with the composition of the Book of Mormon. Dear God. both sides are wrong. Sidney Rigdon's the major author. Joseph Smith Sr. had to rewrite the 116 pages. But we're not going over that again. We're talking about the coming day. And so the fast of Gedalia was on the 24th of September. Then the 1st of October was Yom Kippur. And the 6th of October to the 13th was the Feast of Ingathering, Tabernacles, Sukkot, Harvest. And so the 15th was on the 5th of November, the day we are having our election, to the 12th. Joseph, Joseph, Joseph. Why won't Mormons believe you? Why won't Mormons believe to be saved? So, we'll go over this year for you. This is it. This is what Joseph Smith was all about. And so, the 3rd of October was New Year. The fast of Gedalia was on the 6th. Yom Kippur was on the 12th. Feast of Tabernacles, tents for the Jews, was on the 17th to the 24th. 25th, Nelson, having not died yet, he's getting better, gave the announcement that he's now going to live to dedicate the 200th temple. Which would then get pulled down on the 1st. Nine days before it's supposed to happen. They still have up the youth conference announcement from last Sunday. And so here we go with the 16th of November, after the 5th, election day. 16th to the 23rd is the Israel Feast of Tabernacles for the Danites. There are save 2 churches only, Mormons, and you chose wrong. I found it interesting that on the 5th in history, in World War II in 1943, the Vatican was attacked. This time it's America. What's the Vatican of the United States of America that has to do with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? I warned my government, I warned you, that the church intends to play the victim as a diversionary tactic of them being the masterminds. Church office building has been a cash burden, a cash dump for the church because of all the free labor that utilizes it. It's the number of floors that it is because it was too expensive to go further, despite the one apostle who put the church in debt, saying if we build things, Mormons or converts will come and we'll make the money off of our investment. And it didn't. The church went into debt and had to dig themselves out of debt with the tithing. And so they didn't build it as high as he suggested it be built. They only built it as high as it got built. And it's supposed to be the watchtower. And we get to now bring up the scripture again for you to remind you of what is coming by the enemy as a thief in the night. About the coup of the government on election day. Joseph Smith gives a parable in section 101, starting in verse 43. Verse 51 is it. The enemy came by night, broke down the hedge. Servants, leaders of the church, of the noblemen arose and were affrighted and fled. The enemy destroyed their works that consisted of the tower, church office building. We all knew it. When I was part of the revision of the footnotes, I was again reminded of this. The church office building is the tower of this parable. But they stopped there. They didn't talk about the destruction prophecy. And the Mormons would be broken down, and thus the need for the servant who would have the keys of Moses to gather Mormons to Zion. Election day, Israel's Feast of Tabernacles. Oops. Wrong button. Oh, yeah, right, because we're going to 19 July 1840. What Brigham Young did not want published. We can bring up the picture for this one. If we can find the picture for this one. Just saw you. July 1840, Joseph Smith gave the sermon. Brigham Young and his 12 are called out as the enemy for the latter days, referencing the Last Supper from Mark specifically. Is it I, and is it I? A plagiarized linguistic pattern match. Joseph Smith would be Jesus. I got comments when I first did this. Joseph Smith is not Jesus, and therefore you can't, Yes. Section 107, verse 91. Joseph Smith has the keys of Moses. The keys of Moses is the Jewish Christ. Yes, he is. And so, Joseph Smith goes over his section 101 prophecy. which, to put it in date context, he gave on 16th December 1833, 7 years later. He's already escaped the coup attempt and was trying to restore the church. He's finding out that Nauvoo has people who have fake licenses to be missionaries. The wrong name of the church. All right there in the Joseph Smith papers. False brethren that he had talked about in his Liberty Jail documents, he was finding them in Nauvoo. There are Mormons among us who are pretenders, who are not properly licensed. All right there in the Joseph Smith papers. A whole booklet listing of those who are not licensed properly. I think it was Sloan was the clerk's name that was used by the Danites. Forging Joseph Smith's signature. And so Joseph Smith, knowing of what has happened to him, knowing of what will happen to him, that he will be murdered by Brigham Young. That's why Brigham Young did not have this published and purposely twisted so that we now have the myth of the Constitution will hang by a thread rather than brink of ruin from this document. And so he quotes verse 51, when the enemy comes, and then sure enough he's talking about the Constitution, our government. Thief in the night, now he's going off on the government. And because of my immersion into the words of Joseph Smith over the years with my associative memory, those of you who have watched my videos will see that I speak in the prophesying of Joseph Smith. That I'll be talking about something, and then my associative memory kicks in, and I start talking about something else. And when you look at it in its context, in the bigger picture, you'll see why. I'm prophesying for you. Warning you of things that are coming. Here I'm being explanatory. This nation will be on the very verge of crumbling to pieces and tumbling to the ground. And when the Constitution is upon the brink of ruin, he says that Mormons are supposed to bear away the Constitution from the very verge of destruction. But then he says, he calls it, go tell my servants. This is the part about the man like Moses to gather the Mormons from all over the world. And the kings and queens and the rulers of the earth shall come. All saints come. Foreign saints shall come to Zion. So apparently the leaders of the different nations, I don't know how this is going to happen. The government's not listening to me. But the fall of the great and abominable church would have to happen for the servant, because he's referring to that. You've got to refer to section 101, verse 51 of the fall of the great and abominable church. This church. church office building. The church can try to claim victim, but like I said, I've already notified my government that this was what they were planning to do, to claim to be victim, to claim to get insurance money from the government, to claim to have Zion, to secede from the nation. You abandoned us. We demand money, and we demand the state of Utah be Zion. We're seceding from the nation. The Great Divorce, dividing into tribes. 3 Nephi chapter 7. All for election day. And then, like they're telling you in the news, it's not going to be decided this night. MAGA is making sure of that, because one of their tactics is to purposely not have election results until after January 20th, when that Speaker of the House would take over as president, so that there won't be a January 6th, because there's no decision on the election yet. So come January 20th, defaults by the Presidential Succession Act to the Speaker of the House. White House down. Murdering the president and the vice president who became the acting president. 3 Nephi chapter 7 verse 1. Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon authors are brilliant. Of course, they knew of the plot. That's William Morgan, where he comes in. And so he then says the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are the enemy, the masterminds behind the coup. And Oakes confirmed it. Again, Joseph Smith proved himself by his fruits that he is a prophet, a seer, a revelator, and a translator. Nobody can convince me otherwise. He's already established as fact, just like I am. But like I said, they've got backup plans in case things fail, because humans are involved. If they fail, they get fired and destroyed, and they go to plan B. Enter my brother. Bastard. On my birthday. And the church knows it was my birthday too. They got my brother to come and attack me on my birthday. Forced my brother to put a down deposit for the lawyer, $2,000, which is the standard in the state of Utah. And he confessed to his lawyer that the church threatened him to attack me, to commit a crime against me, his older brother, or he would get fired by the church. And the lawyer thought that they could threaten me on behalf of my brother, rather than sue the church for threatening him to commit a crime against his older brother, or be threatened with firing and excommunication. Right, Avraham Gileadi? How dare you bring up the Jewish Christ? So here we go. Do you remember the 21st night of September, 1823?